Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today we're reacting to Indian Sacred River of Knowledge, Jnana Ganga. I hope I said it right. So this is the only thing from Swami Tadatmananda that deals with Jnana. So this will be the only video of his, and then there's just a few more gurus before we move on from Jnana. So if there's going to be sections with no music and no talking and nothing going on, it's because it had to be muted. So let's go and get started.
During my very first trip to India in 1985, I heard the same Bollywood film song blaring from little shops lining the roads, in restaurants where I ate, and on buses that ferried me up into the Himalayas. The song was from an immensely popular Hindi movie, Ram Teri Ganga Maili. O God, your sacred river, the Ganga, or Ganges, has become filthy. This heartbreaking movie deals with two different kinds of pollution contaminating the river. First, untreated industrial waste produced by factories owned by greedy businessmen. And second, pollution from sins which have been washed away from those who bathe in the river. Bathing in the holy Ganga is widely believed to remove the bad karma accrued due to immoral or adharmic deeds. But how can a mere bath remove sins?
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially the way he explained it, where there's an infinite number of, was it papa karma? Or bad karma? There's no way for it to be washed away. Also, mind you, I'm going to hopefully I'll pause and wait for a few seconds, because if I have to mute the music, it might take a little bit. So, but interestingly enough, and I did not see from the few videos that the few videos I've seen, I've never seen the pollution going into that water. It's usually just, I don't remember if there was trash or anything, but I know they put the ashes in there and everyone bathes in it. I worry for people, there could be potentially some disease there. I don't know, if people have been going there for a long time and not caught anything, that's pretty amazing, honestly. But my gosh, that's something also I I can relate to when I was growing up. There's this nice stream, but everyone just throws their trash. It was a bridge. It was about, I don't know, 50 foot high. And there's a stream underneath, and people just dump their trash over. Because there's no garbage collections when I was growing up, and it was really sad to look down and see this nice, well, not nice river, but it's just a whole bunch of garbage lined the entire way over this bridge, because that's where people throw them. They have nowhere else to throw them.
For believers, bathing in the Ganga is a powerful ritual. Immersion in its waters is a profoundly prayerful act that invokes God's grace and nullifies the bad karma of sinful deeds. This strongly held belief is based in part on well-known mythological stories that depict the river's divine origin and the many blessings bestowed on saints and sinners who bathed in its waters. The river's purifying power is also based on important symbolism found in Hindu scriptures. Let's look at that symbolism. First of all, we have to recall that Hinduism does not attribute sinful deeds to the power of evil like the biblical traditions do. There is no evil power, no devil or satanic being that impels people to sin. Instead, the root cause of sinful behavior is said to be ignorance, specifically ignorance of one's own divinity and the divinity of others. Swami Vivekananda famously said, "Ignorance is the mother of all the evil and misery we see." Let men be pure and spiritually strong and educated. Then alone will misery cease in the world. Those who recognize their innate divinity, as well as the divinity of others, commit no sinful deeds. Knowledge of the divine nature of all beings puts an end to sinful behavior by destroying the ignorance that causes it. A passage from the Bhagavad Gita says, "Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate." There is nothing as purifying as knowledge. Spiritual knowledge can metaphorically wash away our sins by destroying the underlying ignorance. For this reason, the purifying waters of the Ganga represents the spiritual knowledge that removes sinful behavior. This sacred river is therefore a symbol for the Jnana Ganga, the river of Jnana, spiritual knowledge. Just as the river Ganga flows down from the Himalayas and provides life-giving water to all who live on the vast plains of North India, so too the spiritual knowledge of the Jnana Ganga flows down through the ages, from the ancient rishis, the wise sages, to bless all of us living in modern times. The source of the Ganga is found high in the Himalayas, at the base of the broad Gangotri Glacier, where a small stream emerges at Gomukh, about 10 miles beyond the town of Gangotri. Here, the stream is called the Bhagirathi River. It tumbles down through steep valleys, through the picturesque village of Harsal, and past the holy town of Uttarkashi, until it pours into the Tehri Dam Reservoir. It emerges past the holy town through the picturesque village of Harsal and past the holy town of Uttarkashi.
Okay, so it goes up and then down. I figured it goes down, maybe down this way, or I don't know how to. I can't really point it out, but I figured it goes down at an angle. Yeah, yeah, you could say. Yeah, anyways, but instead it goes up and around. That's interesting.
Until it pours into the Tehri Dam Reservoir. It emerges from the reservoir and reaches Devaprayag, where it merges with waters from the Alaknanda and Mandakini rivers, which flow down from other glaciers to the east. Only after this confluence does the river become known as the Ganga.
Okay.
Just as the river Ganga is born from the confluence of several tributaries, so too the Jnana Ganga is born of the confluence of teachings from various lineages of rishis. Those rishis passed their wisdom on to their children and students, who in turn passed it on to their children and students, and so on. In this way, the spiritual wisdom of the Jnana Ganga continues to flow even today, streaming forth from modern generations of teachers in India and around the world.
I do have a question for people who go to that area, the temple area where they celebrate and go and bathe. Is it polluted over there, or is it clean? I'm not sure. I've not heard anything. I know it was kind of dirty from some of the videos I've seen because people would just leave their stuff there, and then of course then you got the ashes. But like in terms of the was it the businesses dumping it there? I've not seen that. But then again, the only videos I've seen has been on those temple steps. So I don't know. I'm hoping people keep it clean and, you know, respect the river and respect the area, you know, not just to leave their stuff there. And I think Sadhguru also was talking about how, the land was not holding enough water anymore because of the cutting of the trees. And that's whenever he had the tree movement and saved the soil as well. So hopefully all that is doing a lot better for sure.
From Devaprayag, the river Ganga flows west into the holy town of Rishikesh, where I lived for a while, and then down to Hardwar, the aptly named Gateway to God, at the very edge of the mighty Himalayas. From Hardwar, the Ganga travels another 1,500 miles across the fertile plains of North India before finally pouring into the Bay of Bengal. As the river winds its way across the plains, it's joined by hundreds of other rivers that drain all the rainwater from the entire Gangetic Valley. The little stream that emerged from the Himalayas eventually becomes a broad waterway. Before we discuss the problem of pollution, there's another issue that needs to be addressed. While all this water is a blessing for the thirsty people, animals, and plants, it has a very different implication for the symbolic Jnana Ganga. When the little stream from the Himalayas mixes with vast amounts of water from the rivers downstream, the Himalayan waters become exceedingly diluted. This represents the dilution of spiritual wisdom that has occurred when the teachings of the ancient rishis became intermixed with the vast store of human knowledge that has developed over the centuries. A Google search of the word spiritual returns more than 500 million results. How can we possibly discern the original teachings of the sages, lost within this immense body of knowledge that includes hundreds or even thousands of different teaching traditions and techniques for meditation, yoga, and self-inquiry? Each of these techniques have some value and have helped many practitioners. But if you want to follow the original teachings of the ancient rishis, you have to somehow locate them amongst all these competing systems in what is sarcastically referred to as the spiritual supermarket. Now, we turn to the issue of pollution. Not only do we face challenges in the so-called spiritual supermarket, but the Jnana Ganga itself has faced grave challenges during its 3,000-year-long journey. When any journey is undertaken, unexpected problems are bound to happen, like when you get wrong directions or miss a plane. The heroine of the Bollywood movie is an innocent village girl, aptly named Ganga, who undertakes a journey from Gangotri to Calcutta, following the route of the sacred river. Along the way, she is tragically humiliated, degraded, and defiled at the hands of immoral and greedy people. Her defilement corresponds to the pollution suffered by the river Ganga from countless sources of human and industrial waste as it travels from Gangotri to Calcutta. Sadly, much of the river is too polluted to safely drink or bathe in. This awful contamination of the sacred river is a national tragedy, which is being addressed but continues to be a dreadful waters represents a kind of spiritual pollution or corruption that has tainted the flow of wisdom passed down by the Jnana Ganga.
It makes me wonder, like, would it be kind of equivalent to say that the amount of pollution in the water equals to the amount of pollution in humanity near there? Just because the respect that they give to the water is lacking, therefore they pollute the water, and therefore they themselves are polluted spiritually? I wonder. It would be a quite a representation, like if the water is very clean and respected, and people are bathing every day, but yet kept it clean. That means they themselves respect the water, and therefore they respect themselves. There is a saying that you generally, if you respect yourself, you generally respect other people or other things. I mean, it's not like you say you respect a lot of the pen, but more like you would take care of it. You won't just throw it away or be careless with it. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Just as drinking polluted water can make you sick, imbibing spiritual teachings that have been corrupted can lead to great confusion and frustration. The fact is, the teachings of the rishis have been subjected to innumerable misinterpretations through the ages. Some misinterpretations are due to a lack of traditional scholarship. I'm shocked by the great number of Sanskrit works that have been translated into English recently by authors who haven't mastered the complexities of Sanskrit language. Other authors and teachers lack the years of traditional scriptural study needed to correctly interpret the teachings of the rishis. Still other misinterpretations are committed by those who twist and adapt the ancient teachings to fit in with their own personal preconceived notions. For all these reasons, much of what is taught today suffers from various kinds of distortions and errors, which contaminate the wisdom of the Jnana Ganga. Then, how can we gain access to the original, pristine teachings of the rishis? Well, if you traveled to the source of the Ganga at Gangotri, you'd find that its waters are absolutely pure, untainted by all the pollution downstream. In the same way, if you seek out the source of the Jnana Ganga, you'll find it absolutely untainted by any kind of misinterpretation. That source is the original Sanskrit scriptures that record the revelations of the ancient rishis.
But you would first have to, of course, learn Sanskrit, and I do believe it being a very difficult language. And not only that, because you're learning Sanskrit, like all these other people who tried to translate it, you may also misinterpret a lot of the words. I guess that could be the problem still. And so you would have to have, I guess you could kind of need someone to guide you as you read through these things, and as you read to, or perhaps a teacher, a guru, to read this for you. That way you understand it the way it's meant to be understood. Again, he said there are many people who translated and misunderstood or mistranslated the word, so you would have that possibility of mistranslating something. I don't know how difficult Sanskrit is, or maybe if words have multiple meanings, and maybe how the sentence is structured would determine how every word in that sentence is meant to be understood, and making basically the language and understanding sentences in Sanskrit very difficult. So, I mean, even if you go to the source and learn Sanskrit, you don't know for sure if you're interpreting it correctly. I wonder if there's someone there who's read it and continue to pass that knowledge down and said, this is what it's meant to be. And perhaps they could translate it to English the way it's meant to be, or other languages, so that it can be read by many people. I mean, I don't know. At least if it is in many different languages, much like the Bible or any other religion for that matter, a lot more people would have access to it. It's very, I mean, if Sanskrit is a very difficult language, you're asking a lot of people from what very little time they have, especially, I don't know, busy people or whatever. They probably don't want to learn another language, but are perfectly okay with reading a book that's translated properly. I don't know. I mean, it would be much easier imagining having to just read something that's very good in your own native language than to have to understand a language, and probably one that's very complicated.
When those scriptures are interpreted and imparted by a traditionally trained teacher who knows Sanskrit properly, as a student, you can figuratively bathe in the immaculate waters of the Jnana Ganga.
And that's the thing, too, is the fact that, imagine you do want to learn Sanskrit, but you don't have, like, a lot of time, so it's going to be very difficult for people to get into that.
Fortunately, the Jnana Ganga has been sustained and perpetuated by an unbroken lineage of teachers who continue to impart the unadulterated, distilled teachings of the ancient rishis. But just as effort is required to reach the source of the river Ganga, effort is also required to find a teacher who belongs to that unbroken lineage, a guru who can lead you to discover what the ancient rishis discovered.
I will say it was very whenever I watched the Sadhguru's one trek up that hill with a whole bunch of people, let me see if I can find that real quick. It was where the two rivers met and becomes the Ganga River. There was two different oh, here it is. Hopefully it'll play.
The Prayag, where it merged.
Right here. I wonder, is that mixture between salt water and like fresh water or something? I'm wondering. Because there's definitely two different colors, and that's quite interesting. And I wonder why that is. I have a feeling maybe one has more minerals in it and the other one's a little bit fresher. Curious. If anyone knows, let me know. The river to the left and the river to the right. When those two combine, makes the Ganga River. And why is the one on the left looks like a yellowish green, and the one on the right is, well, I don't know, kind of brownish, I guess? I'm not sure. But let me know. Alright, I was hoping this was about Jnana, but I guess he doesn't quite have videos on Jnana. I did a search on his YouTube page, and I couldn't quite find it. Maybe I missed it, I'm not sure, but I will be moving on from his to another guru. So anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.